The evening sky was painted in soft shades of orange as the sun slowly began to set behind the tall buildings. Inside a luxurious glass penthouse that touched the clouds, billionaire Ethan Miles was preparing for one of the biggest charity dinners of the year. He had worked for months to make this evening perfect. Every detail mattered, from the music to the menu, from the flowers to the lighting. Ethan believed in doing everything with grace and respect. In the middle of all the preparations was Grace, a quiet and humble maid who had worked for Ethan for 5 years. She was known for her gentle smile and hard-working nature. Grace never complained, no matter how busy or difficult the day was. She came from a small town, and her only dream was to support her family and give her younger sister a better life. To Ethan, she wasn't just an employee. She was someone he deeply respected for her honesty and dedication. Ethan's girlfriend, Vanessa, was also in the penthouse that evening. She was a beautiful woman, elegant, stylish, and always surrounded by attention. But beneath her charm there was a touch of pride. Vanessa liked being admired, especially when she was in control. She had always looked at the staff as people beneath her, and though Ethan didn't like that side of her, he never thought it would go too far. The evening was going smoothly until small details started to bother Vanessa. She walked around the dining area checking every table. The crystal glasses sparkled under the chandelier. The candles were perfectly aligned and the scent of fresh lilies filled the air. But then she noticed something small. One napkin was missing from a table setting. Her face changed instantly. With guests beginning to arrive in just a few minutes, Vanessa turned around sharply and called out, "Grace, where are you?" Grace hurried from the kitchen holding a tray of cutlery, her apron slightly wrinkled from the rush. "Yes, ma'am?" she asked softly. Vanessa pointed to the empty spot on the table. "Do you see this? A missing napkin. We are welcoming the city's most important people, and you can't even do a simple thing, right?" Her voice grew louder and a few other workers stopped to look. Grace's hands trembled slightly. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. I just went to get the last few from the laundry." "Excuses," Vanessa interrupted. "You people always have excuses. Do you even understand how embarrassing this looks?" Grace lowered her head, quietly nodding. Her heart ached, but she didn't argue. She quickly walked to the laundry room and brought back the missing napkin, placing it gently on the table. She could feel everyone's eyes on her, and even though she wanted to cry, she kept a calm expression. What Vanessa didn't know was that Ethan had just walked into the hallway near the dining area. He had been on a phone call with one of his business partners when he heard Vanessa's raised voice. Out of curiosity, he stepped closer but didn't enter the room right away. From where he stood, he saw the entire scene. Vanessa's harsh tone, Grace's trembling hands, and the silent humiliation that filled the air. Ethan didn't say a word. He simply stood there watching. The smile on his face faded slowly as disappointment grew in his heart. He had always believed in treating people with kindness, no matter who they were. Seeing his girlfriend speak that way made him feel something he hadn't felt in years: deep shame. Grace continued her work quietly after that moment. When the guests began arriving, she greeted them politely and served food with care, hiding her sadness behind a soft smile. Vanessa, on the other hand, transformed into her charming self again, greeting everyone warmly, laughing at jokes, and acting as though nothing had happened. Ethan joined the guests soon after, dressed in a black suit, calm and composed. But inside, his thoughts were restless. He watched Grace move gracefully between tables, her professionalism untouched by what had happened earlier. Every time their eyes met, she looked away quickly, afraid he might have seen her being scolded. During the dinner, Vanessa kept praising herself for how perfect everything looked. "I made sure the setup was flawless," she told a group of guests proudly. Ethan glanced at her, wondering how someone could care so much about appearances yet so little about people. Later that night, when most guests had left, Grace quietly started cleaning up. She picked up glasses, folded napkins, and stacked plates. Ethan noticed how tired she looked, but she still moved with quiet dignity. He wanted to tell her that he saw everything, that she didn't deserve to be treated that way. But he stayed silent for the moment, choosing instead to think carefully about what needed to be done. Vanessa walked up to Ethan with a smile. "Everything went perfectly, didn't it?" she said proudly. Ethan looked at her calmly. "Almost perfectly," he replied. She frowned slightly, confused by his tone. What do you mean? He didn't answer. Instead, he walked toward the window, looking out at the city lights below. In his mind, the image of Grace being humiliated replayed again and again. He realized something important that night. No matter how beautiful someone looks on the outside, it's their behavior toward others that truly shows who they are. Grace finished cleaning and quietly said goodnight to everyone. As she left, Ethan turned and gave her a small nod. She was surprised but smiled softly before walking out. That little moment gave her the strength she needed after a long, painful evening. When Ethan finally went to bed that night, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about how easily Vanessa had hurt someone who did nothing wrong. He promised himself that the next day things would change. He wouldn't stay silent anymore. And as the city slept peacefully below the shining penthouse, Ethan made a decision in his heart, a decision that would not only surprise everyone the next day, but also teach an unforgettable lesson about respect, kindness, and true character. The next morning, sunlight gently filled the wide glass windows of the penthouse. The night before had been long and restless for Ethan Miles. He had spent most of it thinking about what he saw. His girlfriend Vanessa scolding Grace for something so small. He had built his empire through respect and teamwork, and what he witnessed felt wrong to the core. Ethan walked into the living room, dressed neatly, but with a serious look on his face. Grace was already at work, arranging flowers and cleaning up the dining area. Her movements were calm and careful as always. When she noticed Ethan, she quickly stepped back and greeted him politely. "Good morning, sir." Ethan smiled gently. "Good morning, Grace. Did you get any rest last night?" She nodded slightly but avoided his eyes. "A little, sir. Thank you." He wanted to tell her that he had seen everything, that she didn't deserve the humiliation she faced, but he decided not to bring it up yet. Grace was proud and humble. He didn't want to embarrass her further by talking about what had happened. As the morning went on, Vanessa came downstairs dressed in a beautiful silk robe, holding her phone. She was busy scrolling through social media and smiling at the pictures taken at the charity dinner. She looked happy and proud of herself. "Ethan, the dinner was such a success," she said cheerfully. "Everyone loved the decorations. I think people really admire the way I handle things." Ethan looked at her quietly for a few moments before replying, "Yes, it went well." Vanessa noticed that his voice lacked enthusiasm, but she didn't think much about it. She kept talking about how the guests praised her taste, how perfect the evening looked, and how she should start organizing events professionally. Ethan listened in silence, his thoughts elsewhere. Later that afternoon, Ethan called his office assistant and asked to postpone all his meetings. He needed time to handle something more important, something personal. When Vanessa asked why he wasn't going to work, he simply said, "I need to deal with something here first." She assumed it was business-related and didn't question it. As the day went on, Ethan observed how Vanessa spoke to the staff. She gave orders, demanded things quickly, and barely said, "Thank you." Grace, as usual, stayed quiet, doing everything perfectly. Even when Vanessa asked her to redo something that was already fine, she obeyed without complaint. Ethan's respect for Grace grew stronger with every passing hour. She had the kind of strength that didn't need to shout to be heard. That evening, after dinner, Ethan asked Vanessa if she could stay for a talk. Vanessa smiled, thinking he wanted to discuss their relationship or perhaps praise her. "Of course," she said, sitting down on the couch. "What's on your mind?" Ethan looked at her seriously. "I want to talk about something that happened yesterday." She tilted her head, confused. "Yesterday?" "Yes," he said slowly. "At the dinner and when you spoke to Grace." Her face changed slightly. "Oh, that. Ethan, please don't tell me you're upset about that." She made a mistake. "You know how important that dinner was." Ethan's voice remained calm. "I was there, Vanessa. I saw everything." She blinked, a little surprised. "You did?" He nodded. "I saw how you spoke to her. I saw the fear and sadness in her eyes. That wasn't leadership, Vanessa. That was cruelty." Vanessa crossed her arms, her tone defensive. "You're exaggerating. She's just a maid, Ethan. They need to learn discipline. You can't treat them like friends." Ethan's expression hardened. "Just a maid," he repeated slowly. "Grace has worked here longer than you've known me. She's loyal, respectful, and kind. She doesn't deserve to be treated like that." Vanessa frowned, clearly irritated. Ethan, you can't be serious. You're acting like she's your equal. I was only making sure everything looked perfect. Perfection means nothing, Ethan said quietly, if it comes at the cost of someone's dignity. For the first time, Vanessa didn't have a quick response. She looked away, still not understanding the weight of his words. Ethan stood up and walked to the window, staring at the city lights below. Vanessa, I've spent my life building this company, this home, everything I have, but I built it on respect. If I ever lose that, then all of this means nothing. She rolled her eyes slightly. You're taking this too seriously. You always care too much about people who don't matter. He turned around, his voice calm but firm. Everyone matters. The silence that followed filled the room like a heavy cloud. Vanessa looked uneasy now, sensing that she might have gone too far. But before she could say anything more, Ethan said softly, I think it's best we talk tomorrow morning. I need to think. She tried to smile and lighten the mood. Ethan, come on. Don't be upset over something so small. I'll apologize to her if it makes you feel better. Ethan didn't answer. He just nodded and walked away to his study, leaving her sitting on the couch, confused and slightly annoyed. In the kitchen, Grace quietly finished her work for the night. As she was about to leave, Ethan came in. She froze for a second, unsure if he wanted to say something. Ethan smiled gently. Grace, thank you for all your hard work. I know yesterday wasn't easy. Her eyes widened slightly. You saw? He nodded slowly. Yes, and I'm sorry you had to go through that. Grace looked down. It's all right, sir. People have bad days. I just try to do my best. Ethan admired her strength even more. You've done far more than your best, Grace, and I'll make sure you're treated with the respect you deserve. She smiled softly, her eyes filling with tears, but she quickly wiped them away. Thank you, sir, she whispered before leaving for the night. After she left, Ethan stood there alone in the quiet kitchen. He realized how different two people could be, one who had everything yet lacked humility, and another who had very little but carried herself with grace and respect. That night, Ethan made his final decision. He knew what he had to do next. It wasn't about revenge or anger. It was about doing what was right. The next morning, everyone in the house would learn something important, not from anger or shouting, but from quiet truth and fairness. As the night sky darkened, Ethan felt lighter for the first time. He knew that by standing up for kindness and respect, he was doing something far more powerful than wealth could ever achieve. And the next day, the world around him would witness that silent but unforgettable lesson. The morning sun shone brightly through the tall windows of Ethan Miles's penthouse. The city below was bustling with life, unaware of the quiet storm about to unfold inside one of its most luxurious homes. Ethan had slept well for the first time in days. He had made a decision, one that would not only bring justice but also teach a powerful lesson about respect, dignity, and true character. He called for a short meeting with all the household staff. Grace, of course, was there, quietly standing to the side, still slightly nervous from the events of the previous evening. Vanessa, unaware of the purpose of the gathering, arrived fashionably late, carrying her designer handbag and wearing a confident smile. She assumed the meeting was about some event planning or housekeeping schedule. Ethan stood at the center of the living room, calm and composed. His presence demanded attention without needing to raise his voice. All eyes fell on him as he began to speak. I called this meeting, Ethan said slowly, because we need to make a few important changes in this household. Vanessa's eyes flicked to him, smiling. Changes? Oh, I hope it's about the new decor or the dinner arrangements. Ethan shook his head gently. No, Vanessa. The changes I'm talking about are about respect and responsibility. The room grew silent. Grace's hands tightened slightly in front of her, unsure of what was coming next. Vanessa's confident expression faltered slightly, but she didn't want to show it. Ethan turned to Grace first. Grace, for the past 5 years, you have worked tirelessly in this home. You have done everything with patience, kindness, and dignity. You have never asked for recognition, yet you have earned it more than anyone here. Grace's eyes widened and she felt her heart beat faster. She had always done her work quietly, never expecting praise. But hearing Ethan say this made her feel valued in a way she had never felt before. Ethan continued, Starting today, you will be promoted to house manager. Your responsibilities will increase, but so will your salary. You will have the authority and respect that you have earned through your dedication and character." A murmur of surprise spread through the room. Vanessa's mouth opened slightly, unable to form words at first. She had never imagined that Grace, someone she considered beneath her, would receive such recognition. Grace felt tears prickling her eyes. She bowed slightly and whispered, "Thank you, sir." I don't know what to say." Ethan smiled warmly. "You don't need to say anything. You have earned this by the way you live your life, with honesty, humility, and kindness. Let that continue to guide you in your new role." Then Ethan turned to Vanessa. Her smile had faded completely. She looked at him, uncertain, almost as if she was trying to read his thoughts. Ethan's voice was calm but firm as he spoke. "And as for you, Vanessa, I want to make it clear that this is where our relationship ends." Vanessa blinked, stunned. "What? Ethan, you can't be serious. This is ridiculous." Ethan's gaze didn't waver. "I am serious. I cannot and I will not stay with someone who disrespects others, who humiliates people for their own amusement, or who cannot treat everyone with dignity. You may have charm and beauty, but without respect and empathy, those qualities mean nothing." Vanessa's face turned pale. She opened her mouth to argue, but Ethan continued. "Respect is earned not by wealth, titles, or appearances, but by how you treat people every day. Grace has shown that respect in abundance. You, on the other hand, have shown how little character matters to you when it comes to others." The staff stood silently, many nodding subtly, impressed by Ethan's calm and fair approach. Vanessa looked around the room, realizing that her behavior had cost her more than she expected. She had lost not only her relationship but also the admiration of everyone present. Ethan walked toward Grace, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "Grace, this promotion is just the beginning. From now on, you will have the authority to guide and support the staff. Treat them fairly, as I trust you will, and the household will run better than ever." Grace felt a wave of emotions, happiness, relief, pride, and gratitude all at once. She had never imagined that one day she would be trusted with so much responsibility and recognized so publicly. She nodded, tears streaming down her face, and whispered, "I will do my best, sir. I promise." Ethan then turned to everyone in the room, his voice rising slightly with emotion. "I hope everyone here understands something important. True worth is not measured by wealth, appearances, or influence. It is measured by kindness, respect, and integrity. If we remember that, we can build not only a successful household but a life worth living." The room was silent for a moment, as everyone absorbed the weight of his words. Vanessa finally spoke, her voice shaking slightly. "Ethan, I didn't realize—" Ethan looked at her with a calm but firm gaze. "The realization comes too late. Actions speak louder than words, Vanessa. I hope you learn this lesson and treat people better in the future." Vanessa turned and left the room without another word, her confidence replaced by the heavy weight of embarrassment and regret. The staff watched quietly, learning firsthand the importance of respect and character. After she left, Ethan returned to Grace. "You handled yourself with grace yesterday and every day," he said, gently smiling. "I trust that you will continue to inspire others not just with your work, but with the way you treat people." Grace could barely speak, but she managed a heartfelt, "Thank you, sir. I will never forget this." Ethan nodded, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. He knew that money, power, and wealth were nothing without principles and kindness. By standing up for Grace and making the right decisions, he had not only helped someone he cared about, but also set a powerful example for everyone in his life. In the days that followed, the household atmosphere changed completely. Grace stepped confidently into her new role, guiding the staff with fairness and respect. The staff, inspired by her example and Ethan's leadership, worked with renewed energy and pride. Vanessa, meanwhile, was no longer part of Ethan's life. But the story of what had happened spread quietly among his friends and business associates. Everyone who heard it was left amazed, not at the wealth or power involved, but at the courage and wisdom it took to stand up for what was right. Ethan watched his home transform, not through lavish parties or luxury, but through respect, kindness, and fairness. And every time he saw Grace smile, knowing she was valued and trusted, he felt a deeper sense of happiness than any money could ever bring. That day, everyone learned a lesson that could not be taught in schools or books. True strength lies not in wealth or power, but in character, in the courage to do what is right, and in the willingness to honor the dignity of every human being. And in the quiet of his penthouse overlooking the glowing city below, Ethan Miles knew he had done exactly that, leaving everyone around him not just surprised but truly inspired.